Hi, Christian Young from Impress Solutions here again. The purpose of this article and run through is to talk through the proposed changes to the legislation in Queensland around health and safety, particularly to the mining industry, with a focus on the language around critical controls and what industry needs to do to prepare for those changes. So quick overview here. So the objective is to improve fatality prevention across the mining industry. The inputs are where a lot of this information has come from. We've heard of the Brady Review, the Board of Inquiry Review. They've had industry-wide resets within Queensland. And what's being impacted in terms of the instruments, we've got the Quarrying Act, the Coal Mining Act, explosives, and a bit of petroleum and gas. And you can see here in terms of the intended outcome, this is the language that they've got, some of the pillars. So there's this continued call out of high reliability organisations, and subsets within that are competencies, critical controls, sharing of information. We can see here about modernising the regulator, which is also called out by the Board of Inquiry, modernising the legislation, and improving the powers there. So that's a quick overview in terms of what that looks like here. There's three pillars. Well, I call them three pillars or three buckets. The first here is around critical controls, competencies, which we know has been talked about a lot, certainly in coal mining, recognised standard 22. I'm not going to go into that one today. A bit about CPD, how we report info, how we share info for the regulator, and then we can see here around contemporary legislation. And interesting call out here around labour hire will be classed as contractors, and some stuff in there. So what I want to focus on today is around critical control management. There's been a lot of suggestions, and I've seen a lot of information bandied about. It's important to actually go to the source and get clear on, well, what is changing and what's coming, and that's what I want to quickly jump into here. So looping back to the objectives again, really we can see here that these changes are intended to drive being more specific and calling out critical controls. Unfortunately, mining, we've got levels of understanding and application of critical control management, and this will actually act as a standard now that everyone needs to comply to. So some will have to come up, some are already there. So for me personally, I think this is a good thing, providing we don't try and boil the ocean and reinvent the wheel. So here, there's a bit of information in relation to the Coal Mining Safety and Health Act. We can see some specific elements called out here, and I've just taken the excerpts from the proposed amendments, which you can find yourself. So really, one of the things here is including critical controls in the risk management framework. So think about your risk management procedure, and alluding to how they support an acceptable level of risk. So being clear on that. Interesting one here around officers of corporations. So my interpretation of this is, this is not from, and this is beyond SSE down. This is above SSE. So think coal mine operators, potentially think group people in group roles, think coal mine holders. So they need to have an understanding of critical controls and that process. And also you can see here it's called out about considering information from hazards and risks and incidents and how that relates to critical controls. Ensuring the safety and health management system calls out critical controls and how that's managed and integrated to ensure an acceptable level of risk. And a coal-specific one here is around ensuring principal hazard management plans include critical controls. So some definitions here. So critical control, there's lots of different definitions. They've looped back to the ICMM guidance note there. We at Impress, we've got some extra rules that will go on top of that, but it looks fairly consistent there. And another interesting aspect here is they use the term material unwanted event. So they haven't talked about fatal risks or multiple fatality risks, they've used the language material unwanted event, and it's up to the organisation to define what is material. I personally like that because that lines up with some of the language that we use, and then that moves beyond just safety risks or health risks. That could be environment, community, etc., if the organisation believes that's material. So the flow on of that, then potentially we will see or need to have critical controls for environmental risks, as an example. A bit of timeline aspects here. So whenever this comes in force, essentially have a year to get your stuff together to ensure you comply. In my opinion, I think you should already be on that journey anyway if you're not already there. So the changes to the Quarrying Safety and Health Act are pretty much identical. The wording is fairly similar. The Quarrying Safety and Health Act doesn't call out principal hazard management plan, so there's no language here on this, but it's certainly calling about here inclusion in safety and health management system, inclusion in the risk management elements or your risk management process, and then again the similar aspect in terms of officers of corporations. So very similar, and the definitions are identical as well, but they've just swapped out coal mining to a mine as an example, and the same timeline applies. So interestingly, the wording not identified, and I've seen a lot of things across social media around this. So if we cast our minds back, so this is the recommendation 6 from the Board of Inquiry in Queensland, where they called out some aspects. So critical controls with performance criteria including principal hazard management plan. So we've seen that language is there. What I haven't seen, and certainly if someone can help me out and point out where it might be, is the language around SSE notifying on a failure of critical control. When we first heard about that, we thought that had some potential hairs all over it. Monitoring the effectiveness of the controls, haven't seen any language around that. Obviously we want to do that, but I haven't seen language, and about including critical controls as part of the coal mine operators audit. Now, again, if it becomes part of the safety and health management system, that's going to happen regardless. So I think that's a good thing anyway, regardless if it's called out or not. But just to be clear, I haven't seen wording around the A, B, and C. Okay, timeframes. I had to go back in time and actually understand how Queensland legislation and bills get passed. I don't have the answer, but what I can say is that we know that the Minister, Scott Stewart, tabled the first reading on the 18th of April 2024. I've been able to find that the committee is due to finish its report. So there's this consultation period now, and you can go and find it. If you've got want to add some commentary, you can let them know through the mechanism that you can find on the website. It's due to finish 31st of May and their final report. And then there's these other aspects here, second reading, third reading, etc. I don't know how long that takes, but the fact that they said committee consideration can take up to 6 months, and that looks like it's going to take 6 weeks from here to here, potentially there is, this is going to move quick. But if anyone else knows the dates, then please let me know. Okay, so rubber hits the road. What do you need to do? So make sure your risk management framework within your organisation calls out critical controls. Well, in my view, where do critical controls come from? They come from a risk assessment, be a bow tie, and the bow tie comes from broad brush risk assessment. So potentially look at the critical risk management framework. Just don't take critical controls and throw them in there. Happy to talk about that one later on. This one, definitely. So how are you going to demonstrate either training or familiarisation or education to these officers of corporations? So operators, holders, as I said, potentially people in group roles. That could be through a training mechanism. Ensuring critical controls included with the SHMS. So what are the touch points in there? We talked about principal hazard management plans. We know that's a coal-centric one, but where else or how else might that look? So that's, I guess, those 4 aspects there that you need to move forward and do something around. So how do you do it? I mean, you can just, by osmosis, take the changes, understand them and implement them. Some organisations might be on the way. Another way, if you want to short circuit that process, is we have guidance on how you practically comply with those requirements and comply with the ICMM guidance as well in our critical risk management masterclasses. So pictured on the right, you can see there how we go deep on the practical tools that supports the ICMM framework. That's that bit in the middle there. It was published in 2016. And to keep it simple and keep it targeted, we have essentially three different roles, or layers of types of training. So there's safety and risk people that are about designing and establishing and maintaining this system. We know they're different and have a different need to risk and control owners that just implement it. So what are the critical few things they need to know? And then supervisors as well. There's a layer there for supervisors to be clear. What does that look like at the apply and monitor phase? So we have, we intersperse how you comply with all of that through our training courses. And obviously you can contact us if you want a copy of these slides. Shoot us an email to admin. And also you want to get the details on the next masterclass, then let us know as well. All right, this is a longer one. Hopefully this helps. And please, as always, if you have any feedback, if you've got any commentary, anything that can help in and around this topic, then please let us know. Thank you. Bye-bye.